Imagine you only had a slingshot and 5 small stones. What would you do to take down a warrior nearly 3 meters tall, wearing steel armor and holding a spear as long as a house pillar? Today's video will show you how a small shepherd boy did something that seemed impossible. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you were David, what would you do? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Lego Bible Adventures so you won't miss any of our inspiring Bible stories. Long ago, Israel was just a small kingdom. And at that time, the nation was in great danger. A fierce army called the Philistines came to attack. Among them was a giant named Goliath. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his armor gleamed in the sunlight, and the spear he carried was as big as a house pillar. The Israelite soldiers trembled at the sight of him. Even King Saul, a tall, strong man with lots of battle experience, was too afraid to face Goliath. While the whole kingdom was filled with fear, in a peaceful countryside village lived a young shepherd boy named David. He was the youngest of 8 brothers. David was small and suntanned from spending his days watching over sheep in the fields. But he had a heart full of love and a strong belief that God was always with him. Every evening, David liked to play the harp and sing to his sheep. No one ever imagined that this boy, who didn't know how to fight and didn't carry a sword or spear, would one day change the fate of the entire kingdom. Have you ever seen someone so big his shadow covered a whole field? That was Goliath, a giant Philistine warrior. Every morning as the sun rose, he stepped out in heavy iron armor. The Israelite soldiers backed away, too scared to meet his gaze. Goliath shouted,
"Who will fight me? If I lose, Philistines become your slaves. If I win, you serve us forever."
For 40 days, no one answered. In a small village, David's father, Jesse, worried about his sons. He gave David bread and cheese to bring to his brothers at the army camp. Excited, David went to see the battlefield for the first time. He found no fighting, just soldiers hiding behind tents. Then Goliath's loud voice echoed, mocking Israel and insulting God. David's eyes burned with anger.
"Why won't anyone stand up?"
he asked. His brothers laughed.
"You're just a shepherd. Go home."
But David didn't care. Something inside him was burning, a fierce fire ready to fight.
Why does no one dare to face the giant who insults the name of the Lord?
David challenged the soldiers, his voice full of anger. When he heard that the king was offering a great reward and the princess's hand to the one who defeated Goliath, David just shrugged. He didn't care about the reward. He only wanted to defend the honor of God. Some of the soldiers heard what David said and quickly told King Saul.
"That boy, bring him to me,"
the king said. When David walked into the tent, he stayed calm, his eyes shining with determination.
"I will fight Goliath,"
he said firmly. King Saul couldn't believe what he was hearing.
"You're just a boy, and he's been a warrior since before you were even this age."
But David didn't back down. He told the king how he once chased after a lion all by himself when it grabbed one of his sheep. And another time, a bear came, and David defeated it too.
The Lord rescued me from the lion and the bear. He will rescue me from this Philistine as well.
King Saul was speechless. He had never heard anyone speak with such strong faith.
All right, you may try. May the Lord be with you.
Then the king ordered his men to bring armor, a helmet, and a sword for David. But once he put them on, David wobbled like a turtle wearing a heavy pot.
I'm not used to these.
David said, and took everything off.
I just need to be myself.
He turned and walked out, carrying only his familiar slingshot. As he passed a stream, David knelt down and picked up 5 smooth, round stones. He placed them into the leather pouch at his side, his eyes full of determination. No one knew what would happen next, but David was sure of one thing. God was leading each step he took toward the battlefield. On one side stood a giant warrior in shining armor. On the other was a young boy with only a slingshot and a few stones. Who would ever bet on David? Both armies held their breath. David, the small shepherd boy, was walking out to the dry, dusty field where Goliath was waiting, holding a spear as thick as a house pillar. When Goliath saw David, he burst into loud laughter that echoed through the valley.
What's this? Stones! Ha 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 ha! Do you think I'm a dog? That you come at me with stones?
He roared.
I'll tear you apart and feed your body to the birds.
But David wasn't afraid. He stood tall, eyes fixed on his enemy.
You come against me with a sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord, Jehovah, the ruler of all things.
Goliath grew even angrier. He raised his spear and stepped toward David, each footstep shaking the ground like an earthquake. But David didn't back away. He reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it in his sling, pulled it tight, and locked his eyes on the giant's forehead. Everyone thought David would have to throw many times before he could hit the target. But no. The stone flew through the air, slicing the wind, straight like an arrow. Then thud! It hit Goliath right in the middle of his forehead. Goliath froze. His eyes widened. He staggered like a giant tree that had been chopped down. Then crashed to the ground without a single sound. Both armies stood in stunned silence. Then a cheer rose from the Israelite army. Then another. And soon everyone was shouting, "David won! Goliath has fallen!" David, the boy with no armor, no sword or spear, had done what no one dared to believe. He defeated a giant with nothing but his faith. Some heroes don't wear capes. They carry only stones and a brave, steady heart. When Goliath fell, it was as if the sky paused for a moment. Then suddenly, cheers broke out everywhere. The Israelite soldiers were filled with new strength. All at once they rose up and charged, chasing the Philistines who were now running away in fear. And what about David? He walked calmly up to Goliath's body. With both hands, he gripped the giant's heavy sword, so big he had to hold it tightly, and cut off the giant's head as clear proof of his victory. After that, David returned to the army camp. Everyone rushed around him, shouting, "David! David! The one who defeated the giant!" But in the middle of the cheers, one soldier whispered,
"Who is this boy, really?"
Another voice, shaky, said,
Isn't that the kid who brought us bread this morning?"
Their eyes were no longer just full of excitement. Mixed in with the admiration was a sense of awe as if they had witnessed something beyond understanding. But while the crowd was celebrating, David quietly looked up to the sky and smiled. Not a smile of pride, not a smile to show off. It was a smile filled with gratitude. Deep in his heart, he knew it was God who had made this miracle happen. David was brought before King Saul. The king looked at him quietly. He was surprised, then slowly, deeply impressed.
Who are you? What kind of man is your father to raise a son like you?
David answered,
Your Majesty, I am David, the son of Jesse, a shepherd in Bethlehem.
a young boy, yet with a heart big enough to do the impossible. And what do you learn from David's faith? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. The giant isn't out there. It lives in the hearts of those who are afraid. On the fields of Elah, thousands of Israelite warriors stood silent, armed but lacking courage. Even King Saul, the tallest among them, stayed quiet in his tent, giving no orders despite Goliath's daily taunts. David's brothers, like the rest, hid in fear, waiting for someone else to act. Fear had spread like a heavy fog, thicker than Goliath's shield. It made people forget God's voice and lose their true selves. Then came David, a boy without armor or fame. Not the strongest or the biggest, but with what the army lacked: faith. Why a child? People wondered. Because David understood that God judges not by appearance, but by the heart. The real battle was inside every person's heart. David stepped forward with just a small stone and defeated Goliath. In doing so, he shattered the nation's fear. The battle was still there, but something greater had changed. The people's spirit. From silence to shouting, from fear to courage. The greatest victory isn't just defeating an enemy. It's having the courage to stand when others are afraid. David's story is not just for praise. It serves as a reminder. The real giant lies within you. Will you face it like David did? The most precious thing isn't defeating a giant. It's keeping a pure heart after the victory. David didn't let applause change him. He didn't seek glory or boast. While the nations sang his name, he quietly looked to the sky, remembering that the glory belonged to God. He remained the same shepherd boy, grateful, humble, and full of integrity. He didn't chase fame or ask for rewards. Yet that victory marked a turning point. People began seeing him differently, not as a food bringer or sheep watcher, but someone with a heart stronger than swords. Even King Saul started to wonder.
Could this be the one chosen by God?
From that moment, David became a name on everyone's lips, not for his strength, but his faith. And it was this unwavering faith that would one day crown him as Israel's great king. Victory may gain attention, but true faith doesn't need grand moments to prove itself. Those faithful in small things are always ready for greater ones. For David, destiny didn't start with Goliath. It began with a steadfast heart. And what small things can you do today to prepare for the great plans in the future? When you face your own Goliath in life, what will you do first? Dear kids, have you ever felt too small, too weak, or too scared to do what's right? Remember David, a shepherd boy with no armor, no sword, but a heart full of courage and faith in God. If you believe, if you dare to step forward while others are afraid, then no Goliath can ever bring you down. If you enjoyed this story, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to leave a comment below. Have you ever tried to escape your destiny? Not just delay it, not ignore it, but run. with every ounce of strength, with every heartbeat screaming anywhere but there. That's what Jonah did. When God called, he fled. When mercy knocked, he locked the door. When the winds howled, he slept. But you can't outrun God. Because sometimes the very storm you fear is sent to save you. And sometimes the darkness you dread is where grace begins. This isn't a fairy tale. It's a true story of defiance, of descent, of divine compassion. This is the story of Jonah, told like never before. Lego Bible Adventures present Jonah 2025, the Lego Bible Movie. Jonah was no ordinary man. He was a prophet in Israel, loyal, passionate, and fearless. He walked among the people like a lamp in the darkness, shining truth in troubled times. When others cowered in silence, Jonah spoke boldly. When Israel strayed, Jonah stood firm, calling them back to the covenant of their God, and the Lord took notice. One day, the voice of the Almighty came to Jonah with a clear command.
Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, announce its doom, for their evil has risen before me. Jonah 1:2.
But Nineveh? Nineveh was the capital of Assyria, the scourge of Israel, the land where enemies celebrated the blood of the innocent. A city built on bones, soaked in terror, ruled by cruelty. Jonah's soul recoiled. These were not misguided neighbors. They were murderers of his people. Instead of obeying, Jonah ran. He fled to the port of Joppa and boarded a ship to Tarshish, the farthest edge of the world he could reach. He thought he could sail beyond divine reach. That if he buried the mission, the guilt would fade with the horizon. But he didn't know. There is no sea deep enough, no sky wide enough, no corner dark enough to hide from the God of heaven. At first the voyage seemed calm. The sea whispered. The skies stayed clear. Jonah believed he'd left his burden behind. Then came the storm, a storm unlike any other. Waves towered like mountains. Lightning ripped the heavens. The ship groaned under chaos. The sailors panicked, each crying to their own God. They hurled cargo overboard, desperate to survive. But Jonah was asleep deep in the ship's hold. The captain found him.
Wake up, sleeper! Pray to your God, maybe he will spare us.
The crew cast lots to find the guilty. The lot fell on Jonah. He stood and confessed,
I am a Hebrew. I worship the Lord, maker of sea and land, but I am fleeing from him.
What should we do to stop this storm?
Throw me in. Only then will it cease. This storm is because of me.
They tried to row back, but the waves rose higher. At last, they lifted Jonah and threw him into the sea. In an instant, the sea stilled. The wind died. Silence fell. Jonah sank, deeper and deeper, until light vanished. From the depths, a massive fish swallowed him whole. Inside the belly, there was no light, only darkness, only isolation, only reflection.
I called to the Lord in my distress, and he answered me.
3 days, 3 nights, a prayer from the pit of the earth. Jonah realized, you cannot flee the call of God. You cannot outrun mercy. Then the fish vomited Jonah onto dry land. Sputtering and gasping, Jonah lay exhausted but alive. And then he heard the voice again, go to Nineveh. Jonah entered Nineveh, a city swelling with pride and injustice. He shouted in the streets,
40 days! 40 days and Nineveh will be overthrown!
At first they mocked him, but the message spread. Whispers became cries, hearts stirred with fear. The word reached the king. He rose from his throne, removed his royal robe, dressed in sackcloth, sat in ashes.
No one man or beast shall eat or drink. Let everyone cry mightily to God. Turn from evil. Who knows? God may yet relent.
And God saw their hearts. A city once destined for fire now bathed in repentance. God chose mercy. Nineveh was saved. But Jonah stood outside the city, arms crossed.
Isn't this what I said, Lord? That you are gracious, slow to anger, full of compassion?
He had wanted judgment, but God had shown compassion to them. The same people who once bathed Israel in blood were now forgiven. Jonah turned away, wounded by mercy. He didn't yet see. The greatest miracle in this story wasn't the fish. It was the transformation of a wicked city. Because one man finally obeyed. Jonah sat alone outside the city, waiting, hoping Nineveh would fall. But God watched Jonah. He caused a leafy plant to grow overnight. It gave Jonah shade and comfort. The next morning, a worm came. The plant withered. The shade vanished. Jonah cried out in despair. God spoke.
You grieve over a plant you did not grow, yet you show no compassion for a city of 120,000 souls.
Jonah's anger was human, but God's mercy was divine. Jonah had run from grace, and still it had found him. Salvation isn't only for the righteous, it's for the repentant, even when they wear the face of an enemy. Jonah thought the story was about justice, but God showed him it was about grace. From the shores of rebellion to the silence outside Nineveh, Jonah's journey revealed God's mercy is not earned. It is given to the wounded, to the wicked, to the undeserving. Jonah obeyed, but still had to learn. Forgiveness is not weakness. It's heaven's greatest strength. God calls us to rise above bitterness, to extend the same mercy we have received. Maybe you've run, held on to pain, clung to judgment, or wondered how God could forgive someone else, or even you. There is no mistake too great, no enemy too far gone. When hearts turn, heaven listens. If this story touched your spirit, tell us in the comments. What giants have you faced? What storms led you back to your calling? Don't forget to subscribe. Every Lego Bible story holds a piece of the divine puzzle, and the next one might be the piece your heart needs most.